This is a video from last week when Spam was 22 weeks old. We're currently in Poland where I'm attending the Silesian Open Agility trial, but last week was spent in Sweden, first at home and then in the Gothenburg area where I attended a seminar with Nina Gregel from Croatia. This clip is from one of our walks in the forest. I've decided to mostly take Spam out on her own when I let the dogs loose because she's very interested in the other dogs and she's very interested in running. So I try to keep a high rate of reinforcement for checking in with me and recalling when I ask her. One of the big projects that we were working on last week was her 2-on 2-off. I'm still working on a backup into position and also reinforcing a sit on the pillow. I'm gradually trying to get further and further behind her so that she's not dependent on my position in front of her to do the behavior. I'm also trying to keep an eye on where she's looking to reinforce as much as possible looking forward, but that's not my main concern right now. So as you can see, she gets a lot of reinforcement for checking back in with me. And then sometimes when she's in a sit, I'll wait for her to turn her head forward and reward there. I still think that she's keeping a good straight body position, but I would definitely like her to look forward as well, so that's something that I'll keep working on. I'm trying to do this slowly and not ask too much of her. Sometimes I'll just reward her for going back into a sit. Sometimes I'll reward her on the floor and let her back all the way up onto the pillow. Because of the camera's position, I only had her on my right for this video, but I tried to do as much on my left side as on my right, and gradually moving myself further and further back. Coming up is an example of how I wait for her to turn her head forward before I reinforce. She's looking at me, and the moment she looks forward, I'll click and reinforce that. As she gets better, I will ask more and more for her position to be forward, but right now I'm focusing mostly on her body. You can also see me experiment with different placements of reward. I try when I can to reward her from the outside, but it's hard to get her to keep position when I do that, so it's something that I try to incorporate from time to time. This was also the first time I stood up more, trying to transition into a stand. This is the very first time with me standing up. It's hard for her, but she did well. I think that she's getting good fluency in the behavior, and that really helps her just keep doing whatever she's doing even when I change position. She's almost stopped using her front feet to get on the pillow, which I think is good for this stage, but it made it harder when I stood up. She had to try a little bit to figure out what to do, which created some cute spins that maybe I can use for something else later on. I decided to take a step forward to help her out. When you make something harder, like standing up instead of sitting down, it's always a good idea to make something else easier, like going forward, since it's harder for her when I'm behind her. So I did some of that to help her out. This is also a very long clip of our training, but I really wanted to show you what our training looks like. In this session I didn't use a toy at all. Sometimes I do, but she works really well for food and she gets very excited about the toy, so I try to bring that in when I need more energy from her or when we're working on things that work better with toys. For a lot of dogs and in a lot of situations, it's a good idea to break your training off often and play. Play helps the puppy keep their energy level up and helps them regain focus because they get a short break. So maybe I should do more play breaks with Spam when we're doing training like this. It's easy to get carried away when she's so good and when she's always focused and trying her best. I think that this type of training is good for her to on to off, but also really good for her developing body. She gets to back up onto something that is a little bit high, and she also gets to do a lot of sits to stands with her rear feet elevated. One thing that hasn't been so easy for us is clipping her nails. She was really good in the beginning, and to be honest, I don't clip my dog's nails because my husband does it so much better, so I just leave it with him. But Spam got really upset when he did it. From one week to another, she went from very happy puppy to very upset, so we had to do some training. The first time I tried using her toy as a reward for nail clipping, but she got really suspicious and didn't want to come back with the toy and also started moving away when I brought the toy out. I did not want to poison our toy play or our shaping sessions, so I just gently guided her into my lap and rewarded her for being calm, rewarded her for me being able to put the nail clippers on her nails but not clipping, and rewarding any situation where I felt like I could clip if I wanted to and she would be perfectly calm. It took me just a few minutes to get her really relaxed. I wouldn't say she loves it, but we're definitely on the way to have really relaxed nail clipping sessions, and she's accepting it without being upset at all, and we have a nice toy play afterwards where she's not carrying any of the discomfort from the nail clipping into our play session. One thing that we're struggling a little bit with for some reason is her turns around a cone. I haven't worked a lot on it, but when we do, she's not as intense as she is in other shaping scenarios. So I've tried bringing the toy in to get more excitement, but the problem with that is that it increases her likelihood of moving the cone with her body, and I really don't want to teach her that cones or jump standards can be moved with her body. I don't want to reward that, so using the toy is really a double-edged sword. As you can see, her outs are not that great. It's been one of my priorities since she was a small puppy, so we really should be further ahead on this, but we're not making a lot of progress. So changes to my training on her outs is definitely coming up because I want this to be something that we both enjoy. This is quite a pathetic training session. I'm trying to encourage her with sounds. I repeat my cues and it's not really happening. The cues are not really functioning as green lights and she's easily distracted. So there's definitely something happening with our cone behavior that I'm not loving. And it's something that I've done. Maybe it's using the cue too early. Maybe it's just not making it exciting for her. Maybe it's too many things at once. As you can see, when I use the toy and she moves the cone, I don't want to give her the toy, so I often just give her food. And that's obviously another thing that adds complexity to the training sessions. I really need to make this more clear to her and easier for her to succeed in. I'm sorry that you had to see this mess of a training session. I promise to come up with a better plan and get both of us less frustrated. Something more fun that happened this week was that we started her rock back sit. I think this was something that she offered on her own from the 2 on 2 off training. And my goal is for her to keep her back feet still in the sit and just rock back with her front feet coming closer to her rear end. For most of my sits, I want her front feet to be still. So if I tell her to sit, I would like her front feet to be still and her rear end to move in towards her front. But a rock back sit is a really good thing to have for some strength exercises, and I would really like to be able to teach her distant control both with her front feet still and with her back feet still. Obviously, this needs a different cue, so I'm calling it balk for now. To get her into a stand, I'm just using her release, but I am rewarding her for keeping her back feet still there as well. My placement of reward is intended to keep her back straight, so I try to reward forward and up and see those back muscles moving when she's in a stand. At the seminar, as usual, I used the lunch hour to work some things with her in a new arena. I actually taught her a high five. This was not something that we'd done before, but she quickly connected different behaviors and started targeting my hand with her paw. The hardest thing was to not get a nose touch, since it's very close to the cue that I use for her nose touch, which is also my hand, but in a different position. She quickly caught on, and she now knows how to do a high five with both her left and her right paw. The one thing that I was most proud of last week was how Spam was able to lie in her bed for 3 hours during a seminar that I attended with her mother Spy. When I wasn't running, it wasn't that hard, of course, but she also stayed in her bed when I ran Spy. I had some nice friends who helped me, gave her some food, and also put her back if she left the bed, but she rarely did. She made noise a few times, but mostly she was quiet and just watching. This is so important to me that I can bring her in and let her be part of what we're doing instead of staying in the car. So I'm really proud of her, and I hope to continue to do this. This is actually me running in the background and Spam just watching, and also being a really good puppy when other dogs come by. We've now started our month-long road trip through Europe. She is being a very well-behaved puppy most of the time and a pain in the ass sometimes. I can't wait to show you what we've done on these adventures, and I hope to get lots of video of Spam from different countries in Europe. See you next week.